Hey, Alan here. I've been thinking a lot about testing lately. I've kind of been on a bit of a testing kick, trying to play around with my apps and make them fail. I don't know. I kind of find it fun to find bugs and basically try to break my code. I know a lot of test engineers and QA people who feel the same way and enjoy it and have a lot of fun with it too. Um, Basically, the idea is I want to know how good of a developer I am. So I've been trying a bunch of different types of testing out. There are a lot of them, but what I've discovered is there's only a handful that I find to be really useful, and I would like to share them with you and basically how we might be able to use them to develop our or to test our apps and make sure we are delivering really good quality apps to our customers and the users. So first up, there is the unit tests. I hope everybody's familiar with these because they are they're very basic. They're very endemic to programming and particularly Android with JUnit testing. If you're not familiar with them, that's fine, no worries. Unit tests basically have you isolate a small section of code, what could be called a unit of code, and to write some other code around that unit that tests it, that checks to see if a given input of that code produces a certain output. So you want to make sure and verify that it is going to be behaving the way that you expect it to. In Android, as I've said previously, JUnit is the way we do this because JUnit has been the testing framework that got adopted for Java years ago, and it's a very good framework for running small sections of unit tests very quickly and efficiently. Next up, there are integration tests. And I would say that we do these pretty much every time that we launch our app and we want to check and see if it's working with the app. So the idea is that we write the code and then we launch it and we play around with the app to see if it works. That's integration testing, because what we're doing is we are integrating the code that we just wrote with the rest of the app. However, the difference here would be that you are testing a feature. So you would be testing like the sign-in feature or the login feature. Well, those are the same thing. So you'd be testing the login feature or navigation to a certain screen, that type of testing and everything. So that's integration testing. Is basically just taking a little bit of code and checking to see, does it integrate well with the app? There you go. Then we have user interface testing. You can kind of think of these as unit tests, but they are unit tests for the user interface, the screen, what we're showing the user. And the idea here would be that you select a small part of the screen or just a single screen, and then you go and you test it. So for example, you would select the login screen. And what you would do at that point is have, let's see, the user's email typed in and then the password. And then you want to check and see, okay, does the validation show up? If the password is supposed to be so many characters, let's say 6 characters, and it types in 5, is the error showing up in the right location? And is it being this correct copy, for example? Like that would be the user interface testing. In Android, we have Espresso to help us script these and run this as well. UI Automator is the new one on the block for it, and that is it's actually both of those are pretty good, pretty robust, particularly if you keep the test very small and succinct. You don't want to do something super overly complicated. You want to kind of keep it small and succinct. So like I said, these are kind of unit tests for your user interface. Now, does your app talk to a server? Most apps do. Most apps these days in some way connect to the cloud. So what we want to do next is perform what are called end-to-end testing. And so the idea is that we want to ensure that our app can properly talk to the server and interpret the information that comes back to us from the server. So essentially, we just want to make sure the app works properly. We're testing from one end, so login, for example. I keep going back to that because you see it everywhere, and it's basically a very simple screen. So the idea is that you want to be able to test to make sure that, all right, the user can enter in their login information, their email, and their password, and then you want to test to make sure that that information gets properly sent all the way to the server, and then the server will respond, and your app will be able to process that response and either take the user to the next screen or display a message if there is an error. And that's it. So the idea is we're testing end to end. So now finally, there is user acceptance testing. And this is a pretty big test for everybody because it's the big one to say, does this app behave like the user expects? You give your app to end users, and then they go and they play with the app, and they tell you whether or not the app behaves in a manner that they expect. Can they get to that important screen? Can they see that screen that they need to do? Does the onboarding make sense, and they're able to use the app after following the onboarding and be able to be productive with the app? Those are all very important questions to ask, and this is what user acceptance testing does. It says here is the app, and the user can definitely use it. All right, so that's a lot of testing, right? That's a lot. And there's a whole lot more. There's many other ones that I haven't touched on, but these are just the ones that I have found to be very helpful within my career as a Android developer, or just in general as a software developer, because each of these test your app in certain ways and in different ways, and they all help to ensure the integrity of your app and the quality of your app. If you have not done any of these, or if there was one of these that you were just now introduced to, I highly recommend going and doing some research and looking them up and trying it out and playing around with it. Just even implementing one of these types of tests in your app or for your app can really increase the quality of your app. And I highly recommend it. If you don't know which one to start because this is the first time you've ever heard of or even thought of testing your app, then try out unit testing. It's very simple. You just test a very small part of your code, and that's it. So I hope this helped. I hope you enjoyed this. Please, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified when I post my next video, and hit the thumbs up button. Feeding that algorithm is really helpful for everybody because it helps spread this message to other people that need to hear it and want to hear it. That also reminds me, if you did find this helpful, then please do a huge favor and share it with somebody that you think would also be helped by this video. All right, if you do all of that, I will come back next time with another video, and so see you then.